Hey everyone, it's Aesah, and welcome to my video on Stage 2 Focus Fire. This is actually applicable to all stages, but it's easiest to demonstrate and learn, and honestly just most impactful and simple in Stage 2. So I want to focus talking about the early game. Basically, you will see a lot of players kind of default position, maybe something like this, just front lines next to each other, backliners next to each other. Something pretty simple here. Um, Basically, each unit in TFT contributes 100% of its output, whether it's at 90 HP or whether it's at 1 HP. So, because of this, it's very important to focus fire to reduce your enemy team's overall output by attacking the same unit as once. A lot of y'all already know this, of course, but I think even in extremely high elo lobbies, people are not taking advantage of this that much. So let's say you have a pretty simple board like this. What's going to happen here is your team's backline is going to hit the Silas, their team's backline is going to hit your Alistar. So this is going to die, this is going to die, and once these units die, this unit probably accounts for maybe 20%, depending on items and stuff, of your overall team's DPS. Like each of these would be 20%, each of these would be 30%, something like that. Very rough estimate, but basically, once your first unit dies, then you're only doing 80% of your total damage. So it's much more effective if you know you're in this matchup and this is a one matchup you need to position for. This can happen a lot on 2-6, where you know you have three opponents and positioning only matters in one of them. It can even happen earlier where, you know, there might be some players who are too strong, you know you're not going to beat them no matter what, so you don't bother positioning for them. Because if you do position for them, you might save 1 HP, but it's not that impactful. And there's going to be really weak players, maybe playing Cypher or just not slamming items or whatever, that are going to be too weak. You know you're going to beat them no matter what, so you don't need a position for them. So oftentimes, you can position exactly for 1 or 2 matchups. So we know we're fighting this player here. We can actually put our tanks here, and then their carries will be attacking different units. This is really effective because you will be killing their Silas first. You cut down their team's DPS, all other things being equal. That could easily be the difference in winning the fight for you or for your opponent, depending on how focus fire goes. In this case, Seraphine actually shoots a line through. So with this exact unit, you can actually do a little bit better here, where you'll kill the Vi, and Seraphine will actually hit the entire team. But I don't want to focus too much on specific unit details, so maybe I'll just use the same backline here. So again, if you see your opponent position like this, if you put your frontliners in front of them, they'll split their aggro. This is going to be really effective. Another way you can take advantage of focus fire in the early game is oftentimes someone might have a strong melee carry. So let's say someone has a board that looks like this. Maybe they have like a Silas 2 and a Nidalee 2. In this case, most people will put their melee carry in the middle. The reason is because most of their opponents will have default your carries down here. So basically, whether we're this side, we're targeting the Silas first. If we're on this side, we're targeting the Vi first. So this is just really common practice for a lot of players to protect their carry with their frontliners. And I would generally recommend that you do this too. But again, if this is a matchup that is important to you, you can actually go something like this. And this will be a 50-50 who this attacks here. If they don't have any area effect, like this board up here isn't that relevant. None of these units like are positioning dependent in their AoE. Nidalee is actually the only one with area effect, but regardless of whether this Kog'Maw is here, or anyway, even if it's here, it's always hitting 3 units no matter what. So if they don't have any area effect, you can actually go like this to kind of guarantee it. And even with this positioning, your front line is still going to tank first. So this doesn't really matter to something like this in terms of your Kog'Maw being more vulnerable. I guess like whichever unit is more important, you would want to put in the back, of course, so that it dies last. This is just pretty important. Like, let's just say we have items on this. We really don't want to do something like this, just because, once again, our units, once they die, our team loses their output. So you want your highest damage unit in the back here. So there's another way you can take advantage of focus fire by sniping the enemy melee carry. Late game, it's not as relevant. The reason is, I actually think if someone has Last Whisper, especially playing like the Marksman Vanguard comp, if you've been playing this set a lot, you're probably really familiar with this board. A lot of times, if someone has Last Whisper on one of their carries, having 2 tanks in front of them is actually really important, because that way Xayah's huge single target damage might not hit the unit shredded by Last Whisper. So if you have a tank setup like this, oftentimes Xayah's first cast, depending on which one of these units kind of cast first, because Aphelios of course can apply it with area effect, but maybe they have a Shojin Xayah or something, or maybe Aphelios hits a clump over here. If Xayah's first cast goes on a target that's not affected by Last Whisper, I'm sure everyone here has heard how important Armor Sunder is just in general. So if you can mitigate that on an entire Xayah cast, that's going to be extremely, extremely impactful in the fight. So if you see someone positioning like this, you can go 2 tanks in front of this. Even if they don't have Last Whisper, maybe they just have, so I'm doing it from your perspective here. If you have an Even Shroud tank here, even though Even Shroud is hitting both of these units, having these 2 units attack different targets is still really impactful, because it'll delay these units from dying, and they will still be outputting 100% of their offensive capabilities while they are still alive. This matters less in the later game than it does in Stage 2, because early game, your frontliners are contributing to maybe like a third of your total team damage, but in the late game, your frontliners contribute maybe 10% of your total team damage in this comp, for example. Just Marksman Vanguard comp. Standard board, of course, will look like this. I have a video on it if you want to check it out. And there are other factors that can be more important than focus firing, such as spreading your backline out for area of effects, for example. Vex, Brand, even Aphelios, a lot of these will do extra damage to your team if you're too clumped up, so oftentimes you'll see people spread their backline like this. Another way to kind of guarantee that you focus fire, I see, again, as a default, a lot of people are kind of doing this positioning, but actually, if you do something like this, it's actually a little more reliable. That way, even if someone tries to put their tanks in front of you, or just happens to be there, these 2 will still attack the same unit. Yeah, I think Stage 2 positioning is, again, even in very high challenger NA games, I think a lot of people are not really taking advantage of it, even in tournament games, like high stakes tournament games with really good players. There's a lot of edge to be gained here. It's very, very common you can swing a fight just with a little bit better focus fire. As a bonus tip, while I'm here, I thought I'd mention walking when both front lines die. So let's say this is your front line, your opponent has something similar. When both front lines die, what will usually happen is the range units, they have 4 range, so they can attack about this far. They will have to walk up. So let's say your front line dies first, and these guys are about to die, you're about equal board strength. Their range units have to walk to you because they can't reach you, and they're losing damage in this case. So again, if you know the player you're positioning for, think about whose front line is going to die. If your front line is going to die first, because let's say they have a Vi 2, but you have a Kog'Maw 2, so your board's like kind of equal strength. These frontline upgrades are generally stronger, but let's say you have like items, your boards are kind of equal strength. Maybe you have this, and maybe they have something over here. Maybe you have some augments. Basically, your front line will die first. They have to walk up, and they're going to lose DPS. From the opponent's perspective, so let's just swap these real fast. Now, you know that their front line is going to die first, so you don't want your units to walk. So what I would do in this position, you really want to be same side as them. That way, let's say we even use a default positioning like this. we can kill these units. Our units still have to walk up, but not as far as opposed to going all the way across. But if you knew you were fighting this exact matchup, I would try to split their damage like this, and then also position your front line up here. None of these units really punish you for clumping, so I would try to position something like this. You take advantage of both focus fire and not walking up. That's going to wrap it up on this video for Stage 2 focus fire and just general positioning that can extend later in the game. If you have any comments or questions, let me know in the Discord, and thanks for watching.